In today's video, we're going to be talking about how to simplify and graph inequalities on a number line. And the biggest thing, guys, is that when we're solving inequalities, it's going to be the same exact steps we would take to solve an equation. But today's focus is going to be on how to graph the different types of inequalities. So once we solve this first problem and we combine our numbers with no variables, right? Those are like terms with each other. We're going to have 4x is greater than negative 36. So now to finish up this problem, we're going to divide each side by 4. And once we do that, we're going to get an answer of x is greater than negative 9. So how do we actually graph this answer? So the first thing, the number that we're actually going to graph, or our answer, let's put that number in the middle of the inequality. And just remember, guys, the negative sign in the inequalities, or the negative sign in the number line, I should say, it's kind of labeled backwards. It's not labeled the same way as the positive side. So that's one of the biggest things we have to remember. All right. So we labeled our number line now. And the next biggest thing is, how do we graph this problem? So we're talking about x is greater than negative 9. So this is the number we want to put our circle on negative 9. So we go to negative 9, we put a circle above it. We should know that it's an open circle because of our inequality symbol. Greater than and less than is always an open circle. So now x is greater than negative 9. That means we're shading towards the numbers that are greater than negative 9. And that's going to be towards negative 8, negative 7, and negative 6. The numbers closest to 0. So just remember that, guys, when you're graphing on a negative side, number line it's backwards. But let's say we have a different problem and we have a greater than or equal to sign. What do those graphs look like? So let's write our problem out. And I'm going to switch colors so this sticks out a little bit more. All right, so we got our problem written out. Next thing what we want to do is distribute. And what we want to remember is that 3 is negative. So that means we're going to have negative 3x. And when we go back and multiply negative 3 and 2, we'll get negative 6. And then we'll just write the remaining part of the problem. So now at this step, sorry about that, we are going to combine our like terms. So when we do x and we combine negative 3x, that's the same thing as saying 1 minus 3. So once we do that, we're going to get a negative 2x, and I'm going to bring down the rest of our problem. So we have minus 6, and this is greater than 4. So the next step, we're going to try to get this variable on one side, numbers with no variable on the opposite side of the inequality. So to do that, let's add 6 on both sides. So we have negative 2x is now greater than 10. And a very important step right here. So this is a step where sometimes students get it a little wrong. The only time we flip the inequality symbol is when the x, our variable, is negative like it is now. So negative 2x, we should know we're going to flip our inequality. Divide both sides by negative 2. And let's scroll down some more. We're going to have x is less than negative 5. Right? And I actually messed up my inequality sign. So let's go back and add this in. This is supposed to be or equal to, so we could show the difference in the graph. All right, so let's get our line out. And then now we're going to number our number line. All right. All right, number to number line now. We're talking about -5 on our number line. So once we go to -5, we drop our circle above it, right? And the difference with this problem here is because there's a or equal to there's a line under our inequality. That means we're gonna fill in the circle this time. That's the biggest difference with our two inequality symbols. And now it tells us that x is less than or equal to -5. So we're gonna shade in the opposite direction of 0. So that means we're gonna be heading towards the left side of the graph. All right, so that's graphing regular inequalities. Let's move over to compound inequalities where we have two graphs in one. How do we graph those? So if we take a quick look, we have -3x is less than or equal to -9, or 5 plus x is less than 6. So the biggest thing, guys, when you see this word or, this lets you know you're going to have two different inequalities on your number line. And the biggest thing you have to know about this is that these two graphs are going to go in the opposite direction. If they ever go towards each other, we're definitely wrong. We made a mistake on graphing. So when we go back to this problem, we're going to solve both of these separately. We're not combining these two inequalities when we solve. So once we divide, right, our x was negative, so we're going to have to remember to flip that inequality symbol. So we have x is greater than or equal to +3. And let's go on the other side and let's take care of the other inequality, right? So we go to our other side, and luckily for us, this is just a one-step inequality. We'll subtract 5 from both sides, and we'll get an answer of x is less than 1. So now, biggest question now is how do we get our answer onto a number line? And this is how we're going to do it. So I drew my number line, and luckily for us, we're working with just positive numbers. Thank God. All right, but I'm just going to include just -1 on our number line. And we're going to make sure we space this out real good. All right, so got our number line down. We're talking about 3 and we're talking about +1. So let's go ahead and just place our circles over those two numbers. All right, so we notice that there's two different inequality symbols. So when we look at our first one, x is less than 1, because we're looking at the graph from left to right. That is going to be a open circle. And if it's less than 1, we're going to be shading towards the left, towards 0, and all those negative numbers. Then let's move over to the other inequality, right? Because there's two of them. So our next one tells us that x is greater than or equal to 3. So because of that or equal to sign, we're going to fill in that dot on the graph. And then those numbers that are greater than or equal to 3, we already know that's 4, 5, 6, and so on. So we're going to shade to the right side. And I think this is your guys, right, if you're watching this. All right. So this is our OR inequalities, always going in the opposite way. Another inequality that we will see that's a compound inequality is those inequalities where they're kind of joined together and they look something like this. You have your x in the middle and it's surrounded by two inequality symbols, right? We call these the AND inequalities. And with these graphs, they not normally, they always run towards each other. And I'm going to show you exactly what I mean like that. So with this problem, we have to understand that x is in the middle. This is one problem altogether. We're going to have one single inequality as an answer. So what we want to do is keep x in the middle. So we're going to add 4, not only to itself, but on both the left side of the inequality and the right side. The biggest difference when we're solving these type of inequalities. So I have negative 12. We're going to bring our inequality symbol down and 3x, and we'll bring our other inequality symbol down as well. And then we have 6 on the other side. So now, what's our next step? X isn't by itself. What are we going to do? So what we want to do is make sure that we divide by 3. And after we divide 3 by itself, we're going to make sure we do the same thing to negative 12 and positive 6. So as we simplify this answer now, we're going to get negative 4. And then on the other side, we are going to get positive 2. And we're done. If we look, X is completely by itself in the middle. But the biggest question now is, how do we graph this on a number line? So let's get our number line. Oh wow, that's the wrong color, but let's erase that. Let's change this back. All right, so we have our number line, and we're gonna number from negative 6 to positive 3. See if we could fit all those on there. All right, got a little tight there at the end, but that's fine. So we're talking about our two numbers, negative 4 and positive 2. So let's go to the number line right now, and let's put a circle over both of those numbers. And if we know this, we have the same inequality symbol, or equal to. So when we look at this problem here, we're going to fill in both of these inequalities. And the proper way to read this inequality, I know so many people have issues with it. This is saying that x is greater than or equal to negative 4 and less than or equal to 2. So what does that mean? It's saying that our answer is somewhere in between these two numbers. So once we shade for these type of inequalities, they're always going to run towards each other, opposite to the OR graphs. So thank you guys for joining us today. This is Algebra 1 with Mr. Peters, our test strategy Tuesdays on solving and graphing inequalities on a number line.